The most disastrous and horrific rollercoaster death in America happened on July 19, 2013. The victim was Rosa Ayala-Gaona Esparza, a 52-year-old grandmother from Dallas who was visiting the Texas Six Flags amusement park along with her daughter and son-in-law. Not only was she thrown in the air violently, but also was tortured by the Unforgiven Texas Giant ride. The scene was horrendous and mysterious. The park staff was even unable to locate her body until after the police arrived. Stay tuned, because this story of Rosa Esparza Horrific Death at Texas Six Flags is so terrifying, it will make you think twice before riding a roller coaster. At 6:40 p.m., at the notorious Texas Six Flags amusement park in Arlington, Rosa Esparza was sent to an unbelievably violent death by the famous Texas Giant roller coaster. Esparza was sitting in the third row of the roller coaster and was ejected as the ride began its descent from the first large hill of the track. The Texas Giant roller coaster is massive, long, and surrounded by so many attractions on both sides, it took quite a bit of time until her body was found, because no one saw where it landed. Her body was eventually discovered by a police officer who spotted her from an observation deck. He couldn't believe what he saw. Her partially severed body was gruesomely wrapped around a support beam on the aluminium roof of the Honky Tonk tunnel attraction, with blood and tissue scattered over an 80-foot area. It was simply a scene from hell. The responding paramedics to the accident pronounced Rosa dead at the scene. The roller coaster is believed to have made its first descent and was rounding the first corner at very high speed when the Dallas grandmother was sent to her demise. The Texas Giant first debuted in 1990 as a wooden roller coaster and was rebuilt and reintroduced in April 2011 as a hybrid wood and steel roller coaster. It is quite majestic and massive, measuring 1,500 meters in length, and its highest elevation is about 150 foot high, which is equivalent to a 14-story high building. The story is so disturbing because Rosa Esparza was tortured before getting flung in the air rather violently. According to Rosa's daughter, who was riding in the car ahead with her husband, she turned around early in the ride to check on her mother and found her flipped almost completely upside down in the car, with her head pressed on the floor. Seconds later, as the ride began its third ascent, she had to see her beloved mother thrown in the air. Her heart stopped and she began to scream. What is even worse is the fact that she had to endure the rest of the ride, not knowing her mother's fate. As soon as the carriage began to stop, she screamed as fear, terror, and tears littered her face and soul. My mum let us out. We need to get her." As it turned out, the ride operators had some sort of knowledge that that particular car was faulty, and that Rosa Esparza wasn't properly restrained in her seat. The Arlington police investigators could not believe what they were hearing in many instances throughout the investigation. The ride operator told them that he checked everyone's restraints before the carriages departed, but when it went by, he remembered thinking the restraint wasn't all the way down on Esparza's thigh. The investigators also found that for some reason, Rosa's restraint harness was down far enough for the computer to register it as locked, which led the operator to declare it clear to go. Ironically, the police had received an email one day before the incident from a woman who claimed that she had ridden in car number 3 the day before the fatal incident. The woman clarified that after the train had loaded, the operator announced "all clear" over the loudspeaker, but he then immediately looked down and announced "check car 3." Then the employee who checked the restraints earlier came back to her car and rechecked the restraints. A second later, an "all clear" announcement was made. According to a witness who was riding in the fourth row, Esparza's restraint was not properly latched. He also added that when he and his friend, who was sitting next to him, saw Esparza flipped upside down with her feet in the air, they tried to help, but they couldn't reach her. The investigating police officers and firefighters were quite saddened by the whole ordeal. It even took the firefighters a whole hour just to remove Esparza's body from the aluminium roof. The scene was immensely gruesome. Her body was partially wrapped around a support beam, with her lower body on top of the roof, and her nearly severed upper body hanging over the south side of the roof. It looked like a bloodbath. The ride reopened in September after implementing maintenance and inspection procedures recommended by the ride's manufacturer, Gerstlauer Amusement Rides. They also installed new seatbelts and redesigned restraint bar pads. Later, in October of the same year, Six Flags Park said in court that it was not responsible for the death because it simply was not the manufacturer or designer of the Texas Giant ride. They also tried to play down the incident by stating that 2.5 million people had been on the roller coaster before. This statement caused widespread anger and rage in the community because everyone knew from the investigation and witnesses' testimonials that the company knew about car number 3, which had a faulty seat restraint before the incident and did nothing to address the issue. Six Flags Amusement Park was trying to get away with negligence. While the company maintained that a mechanical failure was not to blame for Esparza's tragic fall, her family accused the park of negligence and operating a faulty ride. According to the lawsuit by Esparza's family, the car had no seatbelts or shoulder harness, only a single lap or T-bar to restrain passengers. The lawsuit stated that as the roller coaster was in its first large descent, Rosa Esparza's daughter heard screaming and yelling behind her and turned to see her mother in the process of being thrown out of the car, out from behind the safety in her seat. Esparza was then thrown against the support piling as the car twisted and turned, landing on the honky-tonk tunnel's roof. The lawsuit stated that before Rosa fell, witnesses said she had complained that her harness wasn't fastened securely. Apparently, after Rosa complained, the park employee told her that as long as she heard the belt harness click once, she was okay. In comparison, the other riders' belt clicked more than once, which meant they were definitely secure. However, Rosa's belt clicked only once, yet the employees allowed her to remain on the ride. The roller coaster's manufacturer, along with Six Flags engineers and external experts, did conduct a 2-month internal investigation after Rosa's death. According to insiders, the inspection showed that various parts of the security systems on the ride were experiencing inconsistencies and intermittent failures. The lawyers argued that if the park had conducted regular inspections as they claim, they would have found the inconsistencies and intermittent failures and fixed them, which would have saved Rosa's life. Esparza's family had also filed a lawsuit against Gerstlauer Amusement Rides, the company that manufactured the cars for the Giant. In November 2014, Six Flags and the Gerstlauer Amusement Rides of Germany reached a deal with the family of Rosa Esparza. The details were not released. Thank you for watching. Make sure to like, share, subscribe and hit the bell button to get notified every time we upload a new video that will take you to the heart of the scenes and mysteries of some of the most terrifying incidents, accidents, disasters, and paranormal events from around the world.